Tenzin Dorjee Yomada Medene Chanda Tramada Timba Dorjee Bezonzo Traje Deja Tendere Dele Yo Saye Beje Meto Tramere Role Yenye Deje Mawande Sanje Hindo Mede Boye Tokwe Namda Kinla Shembo Joy Edama Guru Rena Mandala Nea Daya me Sangje Chelo Soje Chona Shankyo Bardo Dane Shabsuje Lage Juge Jebe Sonamje Lola Pisha Sanje Robar Sangje Chelo Soje Chona Shankyo Bardo Dane Shabsuje Lage Juge Jebe Sonamje Lola Pisha Sanje Robar Sangje Chelo Soje Chona Shankyo Bardo Dane Shabsuje Lage Juge Jebe Sonamje Lola Pisha Sanje Robar Wala Zumajana Gitada Nimbe Senge Tamji Tendo Tojalana me Bayanda Bazubi Sanji Kumbarambaji Kenji Tobra Shago Te Tobra Javi Cheto Tambe Churambaji Senya Bikono Shanjuji Semchi Se Semegon Sembrisho
Let us cultivate the altruistic motivation, seeking complete enlightenment for the sake of liberating infinite, kind, mother sentient beings. With that kind of bodhicitta motivation, that we should all participate in this teaching.
Ane rab chuna sanji komba cendela sanji komba tobashi tetara majone te ane tabe komba tobashi ta tetara majone shewa shamala nesong sheme ge tangi ba san tango des
If possible, the greatest objective or goal that we could fulfill in this lifetime is to become a Buddha or to attain complete enlightenment in this very lifetime. That would be the highest achievement that one could possibly accomplish. But if we couldn't make for that, so to speak, then the next goal that we should aim for is liberation from samsara or cyclic existence, which is simply called nirvana, completely free of samsaric experiences and existence. But if somehow we couldn't make up for that one, at least we as spiritual practitioners should see that when we leave this world behind, we do not have to be reborn in an unfortunate states of rebirth, or what we call three bad migrations. So in the minimum, we should see that when we say goodbye to this world, that we do not have to be, fall into or take rebirth into any of the three unfortunate states of existence.
That Nego Taduka, David Chavajin, Tobala, they conducting Gurusna, the Aranzo, then the Razo Tobe, the ginger gets on me to teach Tang about Togur.
Simply put, those are the three spiritual goals that we could set forth for ourselves, and so at least we should try to accomplish one of them, if you will, through our spiritual practice and cultivation. And now relating to that, we can talk about what would be the most suitable life basis to cultivate spirituality and to engage in spiritual practice and development, if you ask. What we laid out in those three goals actually contain what we call temporary goal and the long-term goal. Short-term and long-term goals are the temporary or ultimate spiritual goals. Now, the kind of life that we have now, that we are enjoying, which is called precious human life, a precious human life is defined as human life that is characterized by 8 freedoms and 10 enriching factors, 18 wonderful qualities. So the kind of life that we have is, as a matter of fact, the most suitable, the best kind of life that one could have to make a spiritual development or spiritual progress.
Then Chibakine, Igu or something around the Tobias. That the Tola, Ane Lamta, Ane Kirk and teaching Yamni that thinking about something.
So we are all very fortunate indeed to have found this very rare yet greatly meaningful precious human life. So this life has all those wonderful great qualities which is not easy to come about, but we have nonetheless have found it at this time. So we're very, very fortunate indeed. Now, having found this life, now the next thing we can talk about is, what kind of, spiritual path or dharma or spirituality that we should adopt and cultivate in order to realize, the goals which we mentioned earlier.
That Talam the Carresana, Ane Hiji Drava the Num with Drava. That and so 10 jump Nubital Lam Tahikil, those tango. That thing around so yours, and you come to the Kanam.
So, with regard to spiritual path or the method or the technique, if you will, with which we can accomplish our spiritual goals. Now remember that the highest spiritual goal that any of us can, for that matter, any sentient being can attain, is complete enlightened state or fully awakened state, simply called Buddhahood. And in order to become a Buddha, it is absolutely necessary that we purify our mind of the 2 types of mental obscuration. Mental obscuration to liberation, which is simply called delusions or deluded states of mind, and mental obscuration to omniscient wisdom of the state. And so these 2 types of mental obscuration must be gotten rid of for good and forever in order to become a Buddha. So now the question that we have asked is, what kind of a method or a technique or a path that would enable us to do that? And again, we are very fortunate to have met with Buddha's teaching that provides us the complete method or the path to be able to purify our mind of the 2 types of mental obscuration. That's why we often talk about, cultivating method and wisdom together. The integrated path of method and wisdom, upaya and dhyan in Sanskrit, is the very path or the practice of the method with which we can get rid of the 2 mental obscurations and become a Buddha.
Lam Chabaki go that in Daniel Tomato, 10 9 so yore. That cargo is around Rangone. Kaniki was not that. Jundu Samne, a churly by Hutu, a tumble churly Hutu. Then you but the church Hebashi. Somebody the church Hebazam, as a young son of a jingle.
So the important points that I have just made are, all of us are very fortunate to have found this precious human life characterized by freedoms and enriching factors, the most suitable kind of life for making any spiritual development and accomplishment. And we all have found it. And we are also fortunate indeed to be able to meet with the authentic teaching of Shakyamuni Buddha that provides us the complete method and wisdom to be able to get rid of the two mental obscurations and become a complete enlightened being. So these are all great, wonderful news, and we all have access to all these resources. Now, another thing that we really need to find out is what do we need to do from our side? We got the precious human life. Now we have met with the Buddha's teaching, the complete path that leads to enlightenment. Now, what do we need to do from our side to get there, if you ask? Of course, the first thing first we have to develop, interest in Buddha's teaching or the Buddha's spirituality, and we have to try to cultivate that interest in Buddhist path and teaching, and then we have to educate ourselves about Buddha's teaching. We have to develop the knowledge about Buddha's teaching. Then having gained the knowledge through education, then the next thing, which is perhaps the most important thing, is to implement the teaching, to apply the teaching to ourselves or to cultivate the teaching within our mind, which is simply called practice, nyamlen in Tibetan. Yeah? So those are the things we need to do from our side. We have to cultivate interest in Buddha's teaching. We have to cultivate a sense of enthusiasm, enthusiastic perseverance. We have to develop the knowledge of Buddha's teaching through education, and then we have to put the teaching into practice.
That
So in this regard, I think it's very important for us to be able to understand and identify what do we really mean when we said we need to cultivate dharma or spirituality. The Tibetan term is called che, which is the translation of the Sanskrit term called dharma. Now the Sanskrit term dharma is a polysemantic term, meaning it has many shades of meaning. And one of the meanings of dharma is everything that exists is called dharma, or phenomena. So everything that exists is called dharma in Sanskrit. Okay? But when we talk about cultivating spirituality, we don't mean cultivate everything that exists. Okay? That's not the sense of the dharma we are talking about. But when we talk about cultivating dharma, we are basically talking about two aspects of the dharma. One is called lungitemba, scriptural aspect of the dharma or the teaching, the scriptural knowledge. The other is the realization or the experiential aspect of the Buddha's teaching. So the dharma that we need to cultivate consists of two dimensions of the aspect. One is the scriptural knowledge, understanding. The other is the inner experience and the realization. So categorically stated, when we talk about Buddha Dharma and Buddha's teaching, it has two aspects. One is the scriptural aspect, and the other is the realization, inner realization aspect. Now, inner realization aspect basically is to do with what we call three higher trainings. In Tibetan called labasum, three higher trainings. And these are the realizations that we need to cultivate within our own minds. But then we have to learn about them first, right? We have to educate ourselves about them first. And this is where comes the scriptural aspect of the Dharma, which is contained in what we call the Tripitaka in Sanskrit, three baskets of teaching, for lack of a better expression in English. I don't like the basket so much, but I don't have a better word for that. So three baskets of Buddha's teaching, and the subject matters of these baskets are to deal with the scriptural aspect of the Dharma, And when we cultivate the three higher trainings within our mind, we have the realization aspect of the Dharma.
다 도베 템바 람라바숨 랑줄이 셰베셰발라 아니 디 게제셰베 롱데니 숨부들 тө섬셰고 그래스케고 다 장고.
So in order to have these deep experiences and realization into the three higher trainings, or to have the three higher trainings in our mind, in other words, first we have to educate ourselves about them. And this is why we talk about listening to teachings on the three baskets, or educating ourselves about the three baskets, and then contemplating the meaning of the teachings. So we often talk about Teva, listening to teachings, Samba, contemplating the meaning of the teachings. So these are, in a sense, if you will, prerequisites for us to develop the three higher trainings, which are the realizations within our own mind.
다 아니 나라도 달 남 그래서 아니 남배 아니 롱도 최 관리 지이네야. 다 란라바 숨당 롱데는 숨난 두고 그래서 롱최 참말 롱데는 숨 두고 그래. 또왜 아니 템버스나면도 또왜 연지 참말로 란라바 숨난 두고 그래.
Now, the three baskets of the teaching in Tibetan called Tenesum, or in Sanskrit called Tripitikas, these are all-inclusive categories of the baskets. In other words, every scriptural teaching of a Buddha must be contained within these, three baskets. Okay? And the three higher trainings, which are the realization aspect of the teaching, again, are all-inclusive realizations in the sense that every spiritual realization that we could gain, is inclusive within, or could be included within these three higher trainings.
Ranta, 나란저 동해리 땡도 타러왔다. 아니 동해리 타베 셔를 가르고서는 아니 녀모비 녀모비 따라 주시고 그때 녀모비 녀모데 아니 간데스네랑 주시고서는 란라바숨게 냠네시니 텔라 테네 아니 녀모 랑줄게 녀모즈 당 매버서고 그래서
So we all want to be free from suffering. We all have the same aspiration or the wish or the desire. Okay? But in order to free ourselves from suffering, we must get rid of delusions from within our mind, because delusions are the causes of suffering. Okay? There's no way around them. Okay? We need to counteract delusions within our mind. So in order to counteract the delusions, we need to cultivate antidotes to counteract the delusions within our mind. Okay? And the three higher trainings that I just mentioned constitute, if you will, the antidotes to counteract delusions within our mind and to get rid of them for good. So this is why we emphasize listening to the teachings, or in today's language called education, about Dharma. Okay? So through education, we learn about the Dharma, and then we put it into practice or cultivate the Dharma within our mind, which is the practice part. So that combination, study and practice, that we are able to generate the required antidotes in our mind to counteract the delusions and get rid of them, and to free ourselves from the state of suffering.
해바단 두야 말스 해바전 두야 가래서 냠슬랑 거 말스 해주연난 두 해주 망보연난 두야 말 그때 안에 룽그 템바 디 템베 안에 게제테 람라바 가리나 탈라바송은 난세 가리네 데랑주리 셰비 탈 중국어로 막 내가 시켜줬던 두 말스.
So of course, we need to first listen to teachings on the three higher trainings. We need to engage in that education on the three higher trainings. So through education, through listening to teachings, we develop knowledge of the three higher trainings. Okay? So now we know so much, let's assume, about the three higher trainings. But then that knowledge itself is not enough. Okay? That sort of intellectual knowledge itself is good, but itself doesn't do much. Okay, you know so much, so what? Okay? And so if we know so much and we are able to explain things to others like most eloquently, so we can be really big mouth, okay? But there's nothing inside, it's just empty inside. So we know so much, we can be big mouth, we can do amazing presentations and whatnot, but if we don't cultivate Dharma in our mind, really we haven't got the essence of the Dharma, if you will. Okay, we are missing the realization aspect of the Dharma. So once we have gained knowledge about the Dharma, it is of utmost importance that we put it into practice. We cultivate Dharma within our mind. Don't become, dry, intellectual, big mouth, and so on.
There's some shivers and maneuver carries over the Susene, the Sene, Nete Niemon was a Sagu Mato, called Minjega, and they made the Jani, the Shame, meant to you the Kenya, the Pink Maras. She's a main some man on the room, then Nagiga, and a Lunguchella and Dajin do Lungu Kandijin and Landrenta, that Kandijin, till it to some Shani, the Tempe Geshe, the Rangul Shebata, Tapjit Waters.
So here is a very wonderful example that we find in Buddhist literature to illustrate the point which I'm trying to make. Like in the case of someone who has got health issues, right? We call a sick person, in a nice way. Somebody who has got health issues. And so let's assume that sick person has read all about the medical literatures and knows so much about, what kind of medicines he or she should take and, all the ingredients to prepare the medicines and so on and so forth. But if this person does not take medicine, literally if the medicine needs to be orally taken, you need to do that. But if he or she can theorize about the medical field, theorize about the medicine preparation, everything, is that going to help much to recover from the sickness? Of course not. It's good. He or she knows so much about the medicine, but what's the point? In the same way, whatever spiritual topic that we are studying, something from the Lamrim, for example, stages of the path of enlightenment, once we learn about that, that is just the knowledge part. We really need to cultivate that, that path within our own mind. Which is the most important part.
So that never check the Karadesana, Maranzogani, Divata Mamu Sagaris. She's a diva side at the Yen never seen that mount and Saint Yen attended Divata Sanguris. So that's the Tin Dillis down Tani, Sin Dille, and the jacket that that. Sawat temure in contrata ane the church ane ngaje and chado the leg one can say yen never can the social media those mark sometime
all of us accumulate a lot of negativities, negative karmas. And of course, we are not only confined to this lifetime. We are talking about many lives that we have had previously. So we did a lot of negative karmas, and we carry them in our mind today. And if we look at our own life here and now, so to speak, because this is the life we kind of know now, right? We may not remember our past lives. What kind of actions do we find ourselves engaging in? We do create a lot of negativities in relation to other people and other sentient beings. And how do we do that? If you ask, is because all of us have got what we call the delusions within our mind. Right at the very bottom, so to speak, is ignorance, avidya in Sanskrit, marikva in Tibetan. From there arises what we call anger or hatred. And from it arises attachment or lust. So these are the three real poisons. And then, of course, so many other delusions pop up from them, right? We have jealousy, and we have ego, ego grasping, and we have pride and arrogance, and you just name it. So when any of these delusions influence our way of thinking, then we are really not kind to other people. We started to do something that is kind of silly and, negative. And that's how we hurt other people. And those are called negative karmas. So it's very important to understand that how we create and accumulate negative karmas under the influence of deluded thinking and in relation to other people and other sentient beings. So as we talk about these things, all of us should really focus on ourselves. Look inwardly, okay? What I, as an individual, have been doing. Don't look at what other people have been doing. Okay, as we often say, and Geshe usually never say this way, but just to make the point, that's none of our business. That's my footnote. Yeah. Okay. So it's not our business to what others are doing or not doing. It is our business to think what I have been doing or thinking, okay, inside me and what I've been doing. And so when we look at our own life here and now, how many negativities that we have accumulated and that we do accumulate, and based on this, we can infer that in our many past lifetimes, we did many of these things before and worst kind. Okay? And due to our negative karmas, we already suffered a lot. We just don't remember it, because negative karmas never bring good outcomes. They always bring problems and suffering. So we have been through so much, and we do go through so much in this lifetime. And then we ask ourselves, do I want to perpetuate this kind of a life? Okay? Go on forever and ever. Then once I die again, I will be in a more difficult situation. I'll keep creating more negativities and more suffering. Do I want that to happen? And then we ask ourselves, we say, no, I do want to, cut the link, if you will, between this link between delusions and the suffering, so that in my future lives, or the next life actually, I do not have to be reborn in a difficult situations, more difficult situations.
Try to.
Yeah, Bisla, you can speak English.
Okay. That the Zazachini, Tangima Imbas, Ten Chabaki go no Ten to us, Chewing out of you, shooting as to us. That guy is not Ransom Chovasheni. Ransom Chovasheni, Shiva Shiman Zapa, Nisung named Chamagueta, some key, some tangers.
So as Geshe was trying to speak in his English, that now this is a good time that we really try at least, okay, to do something different, and if we could to put an end to this whole chain of cause and suffering chain. That's it. And as I said before, we have these wonderful resources right now. We found this wonderful precious human life. We have met with the authentic teaching of the Buddha. Now the other thing we need to do is make efforts from our side that we do not fail ourselves. Right? All these other wonderful resources are there. We got to use them. Yeah. And so that we do not have to go round and around and around and around in samsara, forever.
COVID, Zhangkante, Rang, Chambaremato, Yengate, Rang, Nyamdeshu, and the Data, Rang, Titani Yamaras.
The samsara that each of us are trapped in is very intimate and personal samsara. It's really, in a sense, not shared by other people. It's not a case like samsara is a prison that other people create and then they lock us inside it, So now we are in the samsara. No. We create our own samsara or cyclic existence, and we are trapped in it, And other people are really not part of it. They are part of their samsara, They created their own samsara.
Causing the Jujima Dupa Shetani pay Jujima Dupi, Senki conditioning in the court, the Senki, cooperate Dugras.
Why I said it is very personal, it's very intimate when we talk about samsara is because samsara is intimately related to our own individual state of mind or consciousness. Okay? Samsara is not something that is out there which has nothing to do with our state of mind. It's not something, a phenomenon existing out there which is unconjoined with, that's a fancy word there, right, with our way of thinking. Samsara is something intimately connected with our way of thinking and our state of mind or consciousness. So therefore, you can't get more personal and more, intimate than that.
Kasan dimbas, the Junkan Deli Tawaching about the Shewa Sunka, Junkan the any Harseta, Nade, Duja Imbacheta, the Shen Kimbaji Tony, and Deli Tawaching was so shows that Junkas had the Shatan Aversion, Rang Zepe, Junka Chadi.
So remember, the great Kadampa Geshe was telling us that we really need to learn to see.
Nurumba.
Geshe Nurumba, by the name, was advising us that we really need to see samsara as not a beautiful and happy place to be in, but it is a real prison. And then we describe what kind of prison. This is not a prison where, right, you get to watch TV and you get to play basketball and, you have other things going around. You can watch the Olympics. This is not the kind of prison we're talking about. This is the worst kind of prison that one can imagine. And so we need to say, what is wrong with being in samsara? It is not a happy place to be. Okay? And so once we started to see what is wrong with samsara and being in a samsara, then we really get interested to say, how can I get out, right? If we see samsara as a happy place, right, then who wants to get out of a happy place?
So that the Junka the Zonkate, Ranjuli Yope, Dangzi Maripa Reserve. So
then who created this such a, worst kind of a prison we have locked ourselves in? It's called samsara or cyclic existence. Well, this is not created by some building materials and, jailers and the guards, they put us in and they're guarding us 7-11. This is not the kind of prison we're talking about. It is the prison created by our own ego grasping. You see, our self-grasping, ego grasping has created this, terrible prison and then lock us inside it.
So that today get the Ranjuli Yope, Dangzi Maripa to pay, Jane, pay members of Tubina. There, that round the section can pay that Everest.
So whenever we are able to knock out or eliminate, get rid of this grasping from within our mind, that is the time, you see, it's really happy occasion that we have completely freed ourselves from the prison of samsara or cyclic existence. Then the samsara does not exist anymore for us or anymore for an individual person. So then what is the most effective method or the antidote or the technique to uproot ego grasping or self-grasping from within our mind? After all, that is the real culprit, who created this, samsara for us. So we need to cultivate the wisdom that realizes what is called selflessness. Once we realize what selflessness is and we experience it deeply, then we can get out of this samsara. So if realizing selflessness is the most effective antidote to counteract and get rid of ego grasping and free ourselves from the state of samsara, right? Then each of us, have the right to do that. And this is the kind of antidote or a technique we cannot go and shop around. You see, you just can't go to the mall and say, I got this much money and can you sell me something called, wisdom realizing selflessness. What is the price tag? I'll pay it, or is it on discount? No. That's not how it works. And we cannot go to a lama, we just plead to death. Please, you are compassionate and you save me and, you just give me this wisdom. Okay, I'll do anything you say. No, there's nothing a Lama can do about it. You make a gift here. Okay, the only way we could make that gift to ourselves is we study about what it is, then we cultivate it, and this is the only way. So this is just, wonderful. We all have the equal right here. You see, there's no way to sneak around and, to find some shortcuts, route. There isn't. See, this is where the individual responsibility comes into play, and you do it for yourself. Yeah.
Shortcut
Yeah, but we, of course, do not get confused with when we say there is no shortcut around here, right? What we really mean is you have to do it yourself. There is no way to sneak around and do. But of course, we do talk about at certain other level, there is a shortcut way to become enlightened being quickly. Okay? We are not talking about that kind of a shortcut. Yeah,
Dini Jang, Sony Zogo, still shortcut here, Yamaris. You know, have a lamb time, no quoting to what you said yours.
So I think one must not get confused between when I said there's no shortcut way around here, there's no way to go and shop around for the wisdom realizing empty selflessness. There's no way and plead to death to the Lama, said, please save me, you are my, whatever. And then as if that's the, will do it. No, you just do it for yourself. There's no shortcut way around it. But another thing I do want to mention is that in order to become a complete enlightened being, we must get rid of the two types of mental obscuration. We said obscuration to liberation and obscuration to omniscient state, right? In order to do that, we must accumulate two types of collection of merit, punya, and collection of wisdom called jnana. Okay, we have to complete these two types of collection or accumulation, kind of not a fancy way to say in English, but you get the sense of what we're saying here. Okay? And so there is no, again, shortcut here. Everybody who wants to become a Buddha must get rid of the two types of mental obscuration, no excuse here and there, no sneaking around here and there. Okay? Everybody who wants to become a Buddha must complete the two types of accumulation of merit and wisdom. There's no other shortcut way around it. But having said that, if we follow tantric method of the path, tantric is considered as a very profound and a speedy path. So through the practice of tantra, one will be able to do that much faster. Okay? So that can be called shortcut way in some other sense.
No. That sounds like that. Thank you. Lamale Changu Shini Yung Mendosan, that the Chen never the Sanji County the Rankan was. No, the Yoba Chungono. Tuna Doba Chumer, Roy Dong a Shag Muscle. Tunans, Toba Sanji County, Roy Dong it Shag Say Yamaris. Shag Say Yamaris. Roy Dong Semi. Need to talk again upon it. Roy Dong a Shag Muscle, need to talk again. The Sanji County, the Tuji and did the Pandos in the digital Pacui Yamaris. Tak ona sanji kemdi gani dujala kandi shabne condition penta version chuni demba tembe to just link kanando.
So I once again want to kind of clarify this one, emphasize that when it comes to liberating ourselves, you are your own protector and you do it for yourself. You cannot go and plead to a Lama, said, I'll make this offering and can you save me? From no. A Lama, even however he or she wants to do that, there's no way to do that, right? This is what each of us need to do. And Shakyamuni Buddha, our historical teacher, has been absolutely clear about that. He really didn't beat around the bush here, right? He said, as Geshe quoted one of the most famous stanzas, words of the Buddha, he said, Buddhas do not and cannot wash the negativities of the sentient beings with some kind of a blessed water. Okay, that's very clear, right? So there is no blessed water to wash the negativities. That's it. Buddhas cannot remove the suffering of sentient beings as if, you can pull out a thorn that is pricking you, right? Buddhas cannot remove our suffering with their hands. Yes, they made that very clear. Okay. they cannot transfer their realization as a gift into our mind. They say, you know what, here's my great compassion, you take it. Here's my great love, you take that one. Okay, here's my wisdom emptiness, you get this one. Okay, I share with you. No, can't do it. Buddha said it very clear. Okay. Now we could ask the Buddha, then what can you do? Okay, then how can you benefit sentient being? Here is his answer. He said, I reveal or teach you about the ultimate nature of phenomena, right? And you make your effort and realize it, this is what will liberate you. Okay? That's the only way Buddha could help. Buddha could only show us the path and teach us about what the ultimate nature of reality is, or phenomena is. Then we study it and we develop insight into it, and this is how we liberate ourselves. Now we're really clear with that, right? So Buddha is very clear about it, what he can or cannot do.
So any pay that true number of your dinner that should do it. Rantoni about you do to it in ever shaggers. Here but some language. Thanking him, cubing, but true here but and measures, true Yansan languages. That you're which at that Tamalus Ganando.
So the one important point I'm trying to make here is that we all have been very fortunate to have this wonderful precious human life, to have met with the most authentic teaching of the Buddha. So, I mean, all those are wonderful resources. There's nothing wrong from their side, so to speak. Okay? Now, perhaps the only thing missing is what we need to do from our side. Okay? That's the question we need to ask ourselves individually. And as I also emphasized before, that as important it is to educate ourselves about Dharma and know about Dharma, what is even more important and necessary is to put it into practice. Many great Tibetan masters, and the most prominent among them is Gyaltsen, sitting over there, Manjushri Lama Tsongkhapa. He said it very clearly. He said, it's not enough to know about Dharma, right? You've got to put it into practice. You've got to cultivate it. That's what he said.
No. And that causing something my show is.
So now let's return to this wonderful text called a miscellaneous collection of great Kadampa Geshe's personal advices, and we will continue from where we left off last time.
Causing they might take Nurumba, Geshe Nurumba, Sumbate, then sing like by future the Atrinte, Majicad, Tamaloke, the Niak Churgis.
I do want to recapitulate the 5 things that the great Geshe Nurumba said, and we did that last time, but I just want to recapitulate that for our own benefits.
No. That thing about Geshe Nurumba Shane said that. And number Toa and never live in Toban Davis. One to Elis, one to Lami Compare. Toban, one to Lami Compatong and Denta. Nearly the Taba attention comparing each. That the digger and then went on Elika and then there was some top and dunking in us. Carigo is a call and a jury the Hishaber Shaus Casimas. Called the animal and pay Tunkan to check you begin to do that. What the diggers on that KGT in the Dermagoona Society and something called Shangres.
Great Kadampa Geshe Nurumba told his audience and us that anybody who is really interested to find a good rebirth temporarily and to find complete freedom from samsara called nirvana and complete enlightened state, such a person or people, the first thing they need to do is learn to regard or see samsara as a worst kind of a prison, that one could imagine. Okay? So it's the worst kind of prison in the sense that we cannot spend any extra moment in this prison. It's such a terrible prison that it's just, we can't even tolerate another moment to be inside it. So then, as I mentioned earlier, that when we talk about I am trapped in a samsara, that means it is very personal and intimate related to my consciousness. Do not think like, as if there are other people who are inside my samsara. No. They are in their samsara. Okay.
That's training. When you're doing but don't make Junshim ever in Nasa, the Ligic, Ranchangburg,
So we really have to picture this samsara as, terrible as we could, really imagine. Like, this is such a, prison that there's no real good friend or companion around us to help and support us. It's the kind of prison where we, experience problem and suffering constantly, all the time. So this is what the kind of samsara we're in. So one of the things about being in the samsara is we are constantly being tortured or we experience suffering. Okay, that's it. It's not like we just got locked in a room. Okay, so what? Okay, maybe we like it. That's not the case. We were constantly, tortured by all kinds of suffering.
COVID 대화도 참말로 동의 차고 그랬어. 대하고가 말했어. 나중 현바 나기 그랬어. 현바 룰 나서 쇼베는 현바 그 초와도 용거 그 쉐베데 라완도 매야 있잖니. 흰거야 말이야. 코랑 매버서 배도 이렇게 왔어.
Even the things which we really usually regard as maybe comfort and happiness and pleasure, these are, as a matter of fact, a form of suffering. And this is where we don't recognize it. So nothing in samsara is really good, you see. Even the things we consider as pleasurables and, happiness, these are, as a matter of fact, a form of suffering. So in that regard, the way we see samsara regularly is we have really gone mad. We have gone mad people, right? When mad people, when they somehow cut themselves in whatever, they don't realize what they're doing. You see, they think it's fun to cut and let blood out of their body. Maybe that's kind of a fun thing to do. Cool. But it's a crazy thing to do, as we know. So in a sense, we are deluded and we become a mad, crazy people that we don't see samsara its real nature. We see it's something good.
코알아 안에 저래도 히시 땅에 버땡에 뒤따도 상당거마도 지니 니마지니다 진짜지니 단신 리가마 왜 뒤따드네 코알 셴 따고 버렸어.
So in order to truly realize the suffering nature of samsara or cyclic existence, we have to contemplate it over and again, continuously. It's not enough like you said, today I spent this much time to think about it. Okay, that's done. Okay. Maybe next day, then we said, okay, I did for 1 week. Okay, now that's enough. I kind of graduated from there. No, we don't graduate in 2-3 days, thinking about these things. We have to constantly contemplate and reflect upon the suffering nature so that we truly realize what samsara is. Once we really started to gain the realization of the true nature of samsara, then we really feel inside, we develop so much aversion to samsara that we do not want to spend another second or a minute inside it, because it's such a terrible, situation to be in. So now we cultivate that kind of aversion to samsara and its suffering, but now if we are following the Mahayana path or the Bodhisattva way of life, then we said, it's not only me who is trapped in this kind of a terrible samsara, but everybody else, all other sentient beings are in their state of samsara, So I very much wish them to be free of their samsara as well. That's how we cultivate this empathy and compassion for other sentient beings.
No, that nimba the cousin de imbas, ranga solas, cubricin the Geshes house, ranga swords, that rang swords and ranga lut or sort, takadichi in there. Cubricin the Geshes, the kitty pengy, that's something goes. Kitty and medupa, then you chuji. Then the you maybe charmed of that, then they something goes.
So the 5 things Geshe Nyingro said was, first we should realize the samsara as the worst kind of a prison that anybody could be in. Then the second thing is that we should see that our life and body are as transient as, the rise and the fall of the water bubbles, right? If we just watch these water bubbles, they just rise and fall, in a split of a second. So our life and body are as impermanent, as transient, as ephemeral as the water bubbles, bursting, rising up and falling apart.
That is on the time around the pento carrying the sometime.
Of course, then we want to think what's the point of doing this kind of thinking? Is there any benefit I get out of just thinking that my life is like a bubble rising up and falling apart?
That pento chiboyor, carrying around trailer, Manju by Manju, you did make it that you the Manju today in a quote, tell us, children, you have a temple to see at town, to live governoress. And then you tell this having a Kuja town. Are they were silent, they were silent, debate to yelling pento chiboyors. Carrying Higalam right here, that under Higra Samina, Higalam on me yellow. Control and I jet that Tado initiated Pentokayama, how Pento never tongue was the Shimar was denying it.
Contemplating the impermanent nature of life and thing has a tremendous spiritual benefits. Okay, so if we are someone, we said, give me a break about something called dharma. What is that? I don't get it, so I'm not interested. We are not interested right from the beginning. But when we really think about how life is disintegrating or changing every moment, then it really teaches us some lesson, that there is something more than just getting sucked into all the worldly things. There's more meaning to life that we could achieve. So it could help us, it could motivate us to engage in spirituality rather from the beginning. Or if we have already entered into the Dharma, it could help us to stabilize our faith in the Dharma. And it helps us to, stop creating negative karmas. Okay? Now imagine this. If we are going to die for sure this very moment, okay, that means we are dying. Yeah? Now think about all the things we consider very important thing to do. Okay? Does it really make any sense to get mad or angry when I'm dying this very moment? Does it make any sense that I'm getting so much attached, obsessively attached to someone when my life is really slipping from my hand? I'm dying here. Okay? Does it make any sense that I become jealous and envious of someone when I'm really dying here? You see, nothing is really of any use and meaning when we think from that perspective. A lot of the things we do in our life.
Children, you begin a child, good temperature, London Droji, that day, Madame the Hishabin, Madame Gomb in the Tisha. That Taman Debo Zambo fire there, Madame Gomti changes in those in the 20 of Tamaraj in those and some those Ganan was.
In the Lamrim treatises on the stages of the path of enlightenment, it's clearly stated that some of the benefits of contemplating impermanence or transitory nature of life and things is, in the beginning, it really becomes a great motivator for us to take interest in spirituality and to engage in spiritual development. In the middle, as we are cultivating spirituality, it helps us to maintain our spirituality and succeed in what we do. And then at the end, this contemplation and understanding of impermanence, it helps us to fruition our practice. It brings our practice to the state of fruition where we can enjoy the fruits now.
So that is on the was. Tangi Kangbe, J Tamjigan, any Lambuchi Churchuba Inson. And then the Shet Tangi, Matabin the Shet Churchuba Ins, and those Kanan was.
So much is talked about the importance of realizing impermanence. Somewhere in a sutra it said that of all the footprints, those of an elephant are the biggest footprints. Of all kinds of awareness or recognitions, the Tibetan term is called dusye, recognition of awareness. Awareness of impermanence is really the most powerful awareness.
Well, that somebody that they should be young is the way to pull a drum, Michelle, the Kimasota, the way to pull a candidate, Ran and Pegata, Lam Lobat Tanki, the Gata, the Yagris, Rankata.
So as I said, I was trying to recapitulate the 5 points Geshe Nyurumba mentioned. And the third point is we must, watch out and kind of save ourselves from the influence of what we call negative friends. Digbel talk about in Tibetan. Negative friends is defined as someone who influences us, directly or indirectly, more in a sneaky way, to get us do something negative. Okay, and as we talked about before, they could be smiling, they could treat us, they could invite us, or whatever they do. But underneath all that, what they are trying to do is get us further and further away from dharma and positive things, and get us involved in something negative. So such a people could be family members, as I mentioned before, but are called negative friends. And these negative friends are really are enemies of our enemies, in a sense, who block our spiritual development. So we will stop there, and we give you some time to ask questions. So be kind to speak loudly so that I don't have to repeat and misrepresent your words.
Okay, that you.
Any questions? No. Yeah. Yes. Yes, please. Yeah.
How can samsara be so bad if that's where we need Geshes?
saying Takarabi Tuja Yobin and the Kovana like King Jever was the Chumbar, and samsara didn't do that in the home.
They are what's on it.
Okay, could you say your question loudly? Right. Yeah.
How can samsara be so bad if that's where we need Geshes?
Okay, for the internet people, I think that's what I guess not Lottie, you were supposed to. I think I'm supposed to do it. Wherever the internet people are. Okay, if anybody is hooked the internet, this is the question being asked: that how could samsara be that terrible and bad as we described before? After all, we have the chance to meet with Geshe.
In that case, COVID that money to me, Pekita to Charis. In a tea, Nane, any round, any Karsagurta, Lipi, China with the toilet and Yodoris. There's a Mazipan, you said, and you COVID nearly you into some same sages,
So one of the things we want to talk about is, for certain specific reasons, we focus on the suffering, the bad side of the samsara, so that we develop aversion to it and we will learn to get out of it. But having said that, the things we find in samsara, which are kind of disturbing in many ways, but there could also become conditions for us, to do something good. Okay? For example, things we encounter in samsara could become a favorable condition for us to cultivate compassion or bodhicitta or altruism, or could also sometimes become conditions for us to meet with, spiritual teachers.
That's a maze. When the Sanji committees and Sanji Combatosayers, in Konazo does in Tambuni Sanji Maris, Koya Nelo, Urumbo Uni, the name bearing vision dosini, and Sanji Combat payers.
As much as we are trying to put down samsara, but we also need to recognize the fact this is where it all starts. This is the launching pad, right? And Shakyamuni Buddha, right, who is now a Buddha, and we take refuge in him, and we follow his path. But where did he start at all? He started in samsara. So samsara was kind of a launching pad that we can launch ourselves to the state of enlightenment. Okay. So as much as we put it down, but it is also something where we get to start everything, and we can grow spiritually towards enlightenment.
So that COVID nearly you and COVID neg don't hate the how cold is any that tell it 100 shade and a lamp do the Tabi combat that Tabatanji combat Tobishagoris.
So the suffering we encounter in samsara could also become an instigator for us to find spiritual path and follow that path and get us out of samsara.
Don't it the men? Don't it the men? And then Sanji combat 100 shade Sigmaris.
So if there is no suffering, if we don't realize what suffering is, then there's really no way for us to cultivate all the necessary attitudes which will lead us to the complete enlightened state. Supposing, say, we are in a situation state where there's no suffering, so to speak, right? then in spiritually speaking, that's a terrible state to be in. We will never develop many spiritual qualities and attitudes that we need to cultivate to become a Buddha. So, okay, this is what I want to say, that we are in samsara, or cyclic existence, and the true nature of samsara is nothing but suffering. But having said that, we also have great qualities, such as we have got the seed of enlightenment within our mind. Okay? And because of that, we have the potentiality or possibility to become a Buddha eventually. Every sentient being has that seed. Every sentient being who is in samsara has got the seed of enlightenment in their mind to become a Buddha. At the same time, being in samsara, it's not like we always do negative things. We do create positive karmic actions as well. When these positive karmic actions ripen, then we, so to speak, in a better part of samsara. Samsara doesn't look that bad. Things are kind of cool and nice and going fine. But when the negative karmas ripen, then it's the terrible headache, situation here, right? So we are in samsara, we do create negativities, we do create positive actions, and these different karmas, they manifest and they ripen differently. Yeah. So that's why it's not like all the time in samsara we suffer, because when the good karmas ripen, we get kind of a little rest and, relief.
So here is
maybe okay, why did that come off? Maybe samsara is kind of revolting here, or my samsara, I should say. Geshe says, the question you raise is really important, that, being in samsara, we have this opportunity to meet with Geshe. Okay? This could be a result of a good karma, because we do create good karma. Right? We should not think that just because we have the fortune to meet with qualified spiritual masters, therefore we use that as a reason, right? Oh, samsara is after all not bad. Samsara is its true nature is suffering. It's better to get out of samsara. But we also recognize that the good karmas that we create in samsara also bring us with the holy masters and bring us into dharma. Okay. So anyway, we have to make every effort to see that samsara's true nature is suffering, and there's really nothing good about samsara. But we do create certain good karmas while in samsara, and they ripen and they help us to meet with qualified teachers or meet with dharma or meet some better circumstances. If we do not see the suffering nature of samsara, we will never renounce samsara. We will never develop aversion to the misery in samsara. So if we never develop this aversion to samsara and its misery, then we will never develop this true aspiration seeking nirvana or freedom from samsara. So when we talk about the good karmas we create in samsara and what good results they bring, it seems like samsara, we can kind of balance out a little bit. It's not, just absolutely negative and terrible thing, but there are certain things, But, whatever good things we do in samsara and things, we appreciate those things, but do not use them as a reason to say samsara is good in some sense.
Yeah.
Any other question? Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
The student meet you here and listen to the teaching. Is that the good karma that we create in the past, or we are creating the good seed for the future? How do we know?
Both ways.
The question that being asked is, that this fortune we have to meet with Geshe here in samsara, is it a result of the good karma we created in the past lives, or is this a new karma we're creating which will be good in the future? So the answer is, it's related to what we did in the past and what we are doing now.
Okay, that's good.
Our meeting you now, does that mean that we actually had a relationship with you in the past?
So what Geshe says is that, together in the past lives, Geshe and we all created, karmas to be here together. Okay. And so as a result of that cause we created already, because the result must follow the cause. We created the cause in the past and now we are enjoying the result. We are together here.
Yeah, in the future, if we make it good,
right. So and now together we create good karma. So in the future we will enjoy, the result being together.
Oh yeah, that's the news.
Yes, I am almost forgetting the announcement and the request here. Geshe will be giving refuge vows to new students and students who want to restore their vows are also welcome on Sunday, August 31st, 9:30 in the morning before the teaching, because teaching is at 10:30. Okay? So refuge vows for new students means like if you truly decided to follow Buddhism as your path. So you want to be a Buddhist. It's not like you study and you practice something. But you really think this is the path I want to follow for life. Then you can take something called refuge vows. With the help of the Guru, you go for refuge in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So that's called refuge vows. So it seems like some students have requested. And so we will, Geshe will do refuge vows August 31st, Sunday, 9:30 in the morning. And people who want to take refuge vows newly, of course, they're most welcome. And those who have taken it before and transgressed their vows could also come and restore their vows. And the prayer request I have is, Michael Kenneth Groves passed away Saturday, and prayer is requested for him.
Oh yeah, the Doreen to me.
Doreen. Okay. I think since like somebody asked, if they have to individually and personally come to Geshe, say, could I come to take the refuge? Well, Geshe said, no, that's all right. Now he says, people who want to take it, you are welcome. Traditionally and, strictly speaking, yes. You individually come and make a request, and then the Lama accepts it, and then you come, But we're trying to make life a little easier, I suppose. We are in the United States of America and California, I think. But that's it.
Shadong Gole Jabo, Shadong Gava, Zombie, Kana Kandu, Tela, Zomba Shere, Zona, Chatelo, Omani Pemi, Home, Joking around churching should be thank you to churching should be give it all a tenny, Sanji temper of Tajir and the never show. And Joey, the Chebe, things the shape of Tamban and Jokosi Cabe tempered to the Indo to them by me, who do you want? And church don't show permanent 20 shower and send them robota. And you didn't come that again, the Montibic sort of the Henny, 20 the total than by me, who do you want?
whatever merit we have accumulated together today, we dedicate it for the flourishing of dharma, the source of benefits and happiness throughout the universe. May His Holiness the Dalai Lama and all other great masters and holy beings live long and be successful in fulfilling their visions benefiting sentient beings. May spiritual communities throughout the world and spiritual practitioners from all traditions remain healthy, harmonious, and be successful in fulfilling their spiritual goals. May these and other world environments be free of all kinds of unwanted pains and problems, and beings find peace, happiness, prosperity, and spirituality. In short, we dedicate our collective positive energy for all kind mother sentient beings to be free from the fears and dangers of two types of mental obscuration, and may we all reach complete enlightened state quickly.